I will unmute you all in just a moment. So what I want to do today, what I've got for you on the agenda today is I want to start by taking a little look back towards last week, kind of reviewing some of the quote unquote homework that I asked you to do. And then I want to further our discussion on balance for today. So let me just put up this slide so that everybody can look kind of at the homework. And here's the deal. I don't care whether you did it or not, and I'm not going to get to each and every one of you. This is a self-paced program, okay? What I want to do is if there's one or two of you that have that would like to share what your experience was with the homework last week, positive or negative, right? I'd like to hear both. If there's one or two of you who'd like to share one thing on your list, I would love to hear more from you. So let me, hang on one second. I just need to get to a different part of this, and we are going to share my screen right here. Woo, you don't need that, all of that. Let's see. There we go. All right, so I'm just gonna do this right now. So here, this was last week. We talked about the 4 areas in our lives: activity, eating, social, and positive mental attitude. And hopefully that you've noticed inside of the community, I re-tagged all of the posts to fit under each one of these categories, right? Activity, eating, social, and positive mental attitude. So I'm posting some additional resources in there. Make sure you go in and check them out. If you have found some things that are beneficial to you, please post those inside of the community as well and give them the appropriate tag. So we talked about those for 4 things. I asked you to pick one action for each item and then make a plan to implement it. Okay? All right, so that was the homework. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. And here's what I'm going to do. I muted all of you. But if you have something you would like to share on those, you know how to unmute yourself. Go down to the bottom and unmute yourself. I'd love to know what's working or maybe what you're struggling with. We can help you and we can give you some feedback. Quiet group this morning. So if everybody's good on last week's stuff, can you give me just on the screen or use your little reactions? Give me a thumbs up to say, hey, I'm good on last week's stuff. Nothing to share. Okay. Joan, how about you? Either this or a reaction, whatever one you choose.
Well, I could share.
Perfect. Thank you.
I thank you for the balance video, and I wonder where I can access that again. Is it in the community room?
Yes, and I am going to talk to you about. I have some great resources for you along with that today. So I'm going to get back into the. We're going to take a deeper dive into that balance today. Did you start? What was one of your activities that you decided to do?
I started doing weights, just free weights, 5 pounds. So I'm trying to do those in the basement, and I've done them most days. I've been walking a lot, and I've been cleaning the house. For my eating, I've been trying to have 8 times 8 ounces of water, which has been hard. I thought I'd be going to the bathroom all the time, but it's not that bad. And then socially, I'm Zooming for church and for meditation. I'm in a meditation group. And my mental health is fine because I love silence and I love reading and bird watching. So I'm going out and with my mask and avoiding people and trying to bird watch. The birds will be coming, and we have to wear masks now, and we have a curfew here in Boston from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. I'm going to have to get out earlier than that. I hope it lifts before the birds come. Anyways, that's what I'm doing, and I really appreciated the balance video because that's hard. And I hope practice really helps. I don't know if I'll get any better, but I hope the practice really helps. That's all.
You know what? So thank you. That was a lot to unpack. Yes, practice. I'm going to start with the last one. Yes, practice will help, and we're going to get more into that today. But I also wanted to say congratulations. That's a lot of action that you're taking. You know, working with the weights and your meditation group. I don't know if you saw it. I posted a meditation from was it the Monterey Bay Aquarium? It was Meditate with the Jellies. I posted that in the group. It's a YouTube video that they have. So they have all the jellyfish coming on the screen, which I thought was kind of unique. I'm not much of I have to be honest, I have not really ever been able to develop what I would call a successful meditation program. But it was very intriguing. So if you didn't see that, make sure you take a look at it. I'd love to know what you think since you're already do that. That would be outstanding.
Okay.
Cool. Does anybody else want to share before we move on? Okay, I'm not seeing that. All right. Okay, I was just texting Diane. I know she's having some issues. I can see her on the screen now. And I just told her that if she can't hear us as well, she can always watch this in a recording. We got her working yesterday, but for some reason we're having some issues today. Okay, so being mindful of time, I want to go ahead and I want to move into balance, and I specifically kind of want to talk about that balance video. So I've got a few slides for you, and I also have a program for you. So here's what I'm going to tell you. You don't have to furiously take notes. Remember, you're going to get a copy of the slides afterwards, as well as I have the whole plan. Actually, I put together the plan for you. And let me go here and start this screen share. All right. All right. Okay. So today I want to talk about balance, because one of the things that I mentioned is when we're looking to improve our pickleball games, I think probably some of the best places to start are the areas with the lowest hanging fruit. And most of us don't directly work on our balance, and there are things that we can do in relatively short order that will start to improve our balance. So here are the 3 key areas that we're going to touch on today. I want to talk about balance and stability, because there is a difference between balance and there's a difference between stability, and you really need to be doing exercises for both of them. And in order for you to understand that, in order for you to do it, you need to understand what the differences are. I want to talk about some age-related issues that are unique to our marketplace, right? 50 people who are over 50, to make certain that if you are having balance issues or having extreme balance issues, that you understand some of the things that can impact us and work with appropriate medical professionals if you believe that those are impacting you, to help to alleviate some of those issues that you may be having. And then the last thing is I actually have plans for you. So again, you don't have to be scribbling furiously, but you need to be able to pick the one that's best for you and then put that plan in place. So that's what I'm going to go through this morning. So let's jump right into balance versus stability. So balance is the ability to control your body's movement against gravity. So it's something that's static. An example of that would be if I stand up and I pick up one foot and I hold it in the air, that's balance. It's a static motion. Okay, so basically meaning there's no movement to it. Stability is the ability to control the body during movement. That's dynamic balance. In pickleball, we use both, okay? Let's take as an example. Let's take you're standing at the kitchen line and you're in a volley exchange, right? So the ball is coming at you in the air. We're not dinking, we're not bouncing it. If the ball is hit directly to you, where you really don't have to move, it's kind of hit directly to your paddle, and every once in a while we're fortunate enough to get one of those, that's more static balance. Whereas if you have to move to take a volley, or you have to stretch your arm in either direction, that's more of a dynamic balance. So we're controlling the movement inside of a dynamic balance. Think of it this way. This is just a yoga pose, right? Warrior One is what they're doing. So when these two people are in Warrior One, when they're standing there and they're holding that position, that is static or balance, right? You can think of it. That's when we talk about balance, it's a static motion. When they move between positions, so when they move from this position, let's just say they move back, they'll probably bring their arms up over their head and they'll slide their back foot up to meet their forward foot in a standing position. Moving from that to the new position, that is dynamic, okay? So it's important that we understand what each one of these are so that we practice both types of balance, okay? All right, next one. And if you had questions on that, you do have a chat. You can always put them in the chat. You can get that pop-up menu in the chat down below. If you've got a question, you can put that in the chat and I'll make sure and get those at the end. If not, you can hold your questions. I'll take you off mute and you can do it that way as well. But all that's important is that you kind of understand the difference, because we will be working on both, all right? The second thing I wanted to go over are the age-related issues that can happen as we start, that changes our balance. And so, I mean, is there anybody on the call whose hearing or eyesight hasn't changed since we got older? I mean, if it hasn't for you, as my Australian friends would say, good on you, right? Lucky you. But for most of us, it has changed. Our hearing has changed. Our eyesight has changed. If you're having hearing issues, that can really cause, inner ear issues can be a major impactor to balance. If anyone has ever experienced those before, experienced vertigo issues, obviously that challenges our balance. If you're having severe issues there, you're going to need to work with a medical professional. Eyesight, I mean, just a real simple thing. When's the last time you had your eyes checked? Because not only does it impact us from a balance standpoint, but we're talking about playing pickleball. And one of the biggest things that I see when I'm working with students is I see people will not always follow the ball all the way to their paddle. Okay, so when you don't follow, so if my paddle is my hand, right, and the ball's coming from this direction, if I'm here and my eyes are still towards you, I now have the ball in my peripheral vision. I have increased my chances of having a mishit. In order for me to really make decent contact, I need to follow the ball all the way to the paddle. I do have a video on the site. It's called Watch the Ball. I will post it later. It's great for vision issues. And it's really simple. It's having somebody toss a ball to you. And that's something that you could have done, that you could do while we're away from pickleball and so this video, and what I'm going to do is stop for just 1 second and write a quick note to make sure that I also post the Watch the Ball. Okay. That video can help, but have your eyes checked if you haven't done it in a while. Muscle strength and endurance, we are going to talk more about this. So muscle strength is your ability to lift something. So let's just say strength is the ability to lift a 10-pound bag of groceries. Muscular endurance would be your ability to take that bag of groceries and walk across the parking lot with it. If you're not weight training, you are losing your muscular strength and endurance. In fact, once we hit age 40, that's not age 50, it's age 40, we begin to lose about 1% of our muscle mass a year. Once we hit 50, that increases to about 1.25%. So a decrease in muscle mass, we don't have the muscles to help us to balance. Another one is core strength. So when I define core, I would define core as the area like right here above my breasts down to just below my gluteals, like the top of the thigh. That's my core. So it is thinking of it, my stomach, right? My tummy, but it's also my back as well as my gluteals. And we are going to work a little bit on your core strength because typically that's, again, one of the things that begins to impact us. Our reflexes have started to slow. I don't know about you, but I've definitely noticed that my reflexes are slowing. And if you look at pickleball players, let's just say exact same skill. We had two players that had the exact same amount of skill, but one is 30 and the other one is 50. Chances are that the one who's 30 is going to be faster than the one who's 50. Now, that's not a steadfast rule, but it's it generally holds pretty true. There are exceptions to that, but very, very few. So our reflexes are slowing. And again, there are things that you can do for your reflexes, which reminds me, I also have a reflex video, which is something that you can do while you're in the house. And I don't necessarily, as I post these videos and post these resources for you, I just want to segue by saying, I don't expect you to take every one of these things and try and incorporate it in your life all at once. That's a recipe for disaster. I'm simply trying to give you a multitude of resources and things that you can do that you may find helpful. Again, target your lowest hanging fruit and pick those things first. Big word, proprioception, right? Well, essentially what it is it's our position and movement awareness of our body. As we age, they're not really sure why, but this decreases. One of the things that I mentioned in the video that I just shot on Saturday, or the video I just posted on Saturday, was I talked in that video about not just doing those outside with shoes on. I mentioned doing those inside barefoot. If you want to increase your proprioception, and I recommend that you try some of these balance exercises barefoot. We have a lot of those receptors inside of our feet. And I think you'll notice a difference. A kind of a fun test is to take and to do them with your shoes on, and then do them, like do 2 sessions. Do one in the morning with your shoes on and do one in the afternoon without your shoes on, and see if you notice a difference. I bet you will. There will probably be one that is easier to keep your balance with, one or the other. I will tell you, I have a much easier time keeping my balance outside of a pair of shoes than I do when I'm in shoes. Other ones are health conditions. If you're suffering from certain health conditions, those can impact your balance. And if it's a chronic condition, chances are your doctor has already shared that with you. So as you start these balance-related exercises, if you are, just start them very slowly. And I'm going to cover more about that in just a minute. If you have some of those health conditions that you already know will impact your balance. And then the other thing is medications, like blood pressure, things like that. Those can all impact our balance. So if you're finding that you have abnormal balance issues, it's not just, I notice it decreasing slightly. If you're feeling really wobbly and unsteady, I would recommend that you work with the appropriate medical professionals to try and eliminate as many of these issues as you can. Because the last thing anybody wants to do is get hurt out on the pickleball court. But again, you still can do things to help to change your balance. Okay. So let's dive into the third one now. Now, you know some of those factors. We've talked about balance and stability, exactly what it is. We've talked about some of the potential age-related issues that you may have to tackle and that you might have to deal with, and some resources to be able to do that. Let's jump into a plan. And this is a balance training plan. So it's going to have, this balance training plan is going to have 3 parts to it. You're going to start with a balance test. Then I'm going to have you do some core strength moves. So this will be part of your plan. There'll be 3 core strength moves. And then you will actually have the balance plan workout, which are the 5 moves that I did in last week's video. So, and I have a PDF all set up for you that I will put into the community afterwards so that you'll be able to easily access all of these things. Okay, so you don't need to frantically take notes as we go through here. And again, if you do have some questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, or you can hold them until a bit later. But let's go ahead and we're going to get into the balance test. So here's what I want you to do for a balance test. So the first one is we're going to test this, obviously. We're going to test your static balance here. So the first one you would do is, it's just very simple. Balance with your eyes open. You're going to stand on one foot. Try this barefoot. You know, again, get your feet about shoulder width apart. This was really the first test that I did in the first exercise that I did in last week's video. You're going to lift up that leg and hold it as long as possible, and then you'll repeat on the other side. An easy way to do this is to use your cell phone as a timer. So just simply set your cell phone down in front of you, start your timer app on your cell phone, set the cell phone down in front of you, get yourself in balance. And when you see the cell phone hit an even number, like the number 10, go ahead and lift your leg up in the air, and then just watch the cell phone so you know how many seconds that you have to be able to keep your leg up in the air. And you'll notice this chart is broken down in 10-year increments from 40 all the way up until 80. You will probably, and by the way, I said this, but I just want to reiterate, I want you to do it on each side. My guess is you're going to notice a difference in your balance from one side to the other. Usually we're better on our dominant side. So if you're a right-hander, you tend to have better balance with the right foot down. If you're a left-hander, you tend to have better balance with the left foot down. Not always, but typically you'll find one side is a little bit better than the other. Then the second test I want you to do is I want you to do balance with your eyes closed. Now this one you're probably not going to be able to use a timer, but you could count, if you remember, as kids, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, right? Or 1 1,000, 2 1,000, and count that to yourself to see how many seconds you can do it with your eyes closed. We talked about what an impact your vision has on your balance. And the minute we close our eyes, and you probably saw it in the video, balance in those positions gets infinitely more difficult. If you are concerned about falling, have a chair close by to you so that you could just easily reach out and touch the chair so that you don't fall. So have some sort of stability thing there if you are concerned about falling. So that's the very first thing that I want you to do in the balance test. And you might be thinking, why haven't I included a static part to this? You could. I think this starts to give you an idea, just based, we can say this, static is infinitely harder, right? I'm sorry, let me stop. I used the wrong words. This is the static test. Why haven't you included a dynamic part in this? Dynamic is harder. Static is easier. If you get a test where you can see where you are statically, that's going to kind of indicate the challenges that you might have with dynamic balance. So that's why I haven't really included a dynamic balance test, is because I want you to have that baseline static thought in your mind first. So, and I'll be happy to answer more questions on that as we get a little further. Before we get into the plan any further, you know what I want to do? I want to stop for just a second. Let me just stop this screen share. I'm going to bring you all back out. There we go. Okay. Because when I'm sharing the screen, I can't always see all of you. I only get to see about 4 of you at one point in time. How are we doing so far? If you have some questions that you need answered before we go further, unmute yourself and ask the question now. Okay, I see Joan is good. Okay. Everybody's good? You can give me a, okay, Tommy's good. All right, okay, then I'm gonna keep going. All righty. Okay, let's go back. And I'm gonna share that screen again. Okay. Hang on one second, let me get back to where we were. There we go. Okay, so that was the balance test. So once you've done the balance test, then the next thing is to start working your plan. And there's 2 pieces to that plan. The first one would be the core piece, and then the second one is going to be the actual balance piece itself. In Sunday's video, I talked about core strength in a very general way, not in depth. What I asked you to do as you were doing those postures is I mentioned feeling like you were taking your stomach muscles and pulling those muscles towards your spine, okay? That's what's called engaging the core. In order to balance efficiently, those core muscles, all those little tiny muscles that make up our stomach, our stomach and our back, those core muscles need to be strong to be engaged. And many times we're not doing some of the things that we could do to make those core muscles strong. So these are 3 different exercises that will help to make those core muscles strong. So I'm going to start with the one on the top left side of your screen, kind of where I'm in the camouflage tights, and I'm down on my elbows, okay? So that's called a plank. And you've probably all seen or probably have all tried a plank, and you might be thinking, oh my God, CJ, what are you talking about? Okay, so I have a video for you, and I will post that. I have a video for you that shows you how to take a plank and modify a plank no matter what level you're starting at. Because here's what I would tell you is the plank, undoubtedly, the research keeps coming up over and over and over again. Instead of doing sit-ups, planks are the things that will make your core strong. Now, I go into detail inside of this video, but I am going to share just a couple of things that are really important so that you can see them inside of this still picture. So when you take a plank position, we're going to do planks on our elbows. And if you'll notice, if you look at me inside of the picture, you will notice that my shoulder joint is directly over my elbow. That puts your shoulders into a safe position. If my shoulder joint, if my elbows are on the floor and my shoulder joint is way back or way forward, I put a lot of stress on the shoulder joint. So as you do this, make sure that you get your shoulder joint directly over your elbow in terms of base of support. This move where you see me on my knees with a plank, that's the first most basic move. And I think each and every one of you, you're out, you're playing pickleball and you're doing lots of good things. I think each and every one of you should be able to do this first version of a plank. Now, for some of you, I know you're already working out, so that's going to be way too easy for you. Inside of the video, I give you additional ways to challenge yourself. So like everything that I did in the balance video this weekend, start at your lowest level whatever that is, whatever you're comfortable with. So if you're starting on your knees and that's where you're comfortable, that's great. We're going to try and either work to increase the amount of time that you can hold that, or to increase the difficulty by moving up to the next level, and any combination in between. But again, I've got that all mapped out for you, and I'll show you that in just a second. So that is number one. That's the plank. Let's go to the other picture of me in the top right side of your screen. That one is called a bird dog. Again, I've got a video that you can go through and you can see the entire bird dog. What this helps to do is this not just helps to increase our core strength. This is great for proprioception, okay, for our movement. Now, you'll notice here that if you look at my position, when I am down on all fours, my hip is directly over my knee, and my shoulder would be over my wrist. Okay? So that's how I want to start this position. If you have wrist issues, take and use some padding. In fact, it's a little hard to see. I am on a mat here, but take and use some extra padding. And if you don't have a mat at home, that's not a big deal. Towels, anything to roll up underneath yourself. If you have to, you could use, if you've got some free weights at home and your wrists really bother you, you could hold on to those free weights. That puts you just a little bit above the floor, but that alleviates some of the pressure on your wrist. Another thing you can do, and I show this how to do this in the videos, is you could take your knuckle, make a knuckle, and you could put yourself down so that your knuckles are against the floor, so my wrists are nice and straight instead of having to be in that position. So take care if you have some wrist issues, and if you need some more wrist modifications, if you have some wrist issues, please make sure and ask me, and you and I will work out something. This is the bird dog. So what we're trying to do here is I'm lifting the opposite arm and opposite leg so that I'm straight off the ground. As you'll notice, I don't have the leg higher or lower. I'm trying to lift those and keep them in alignment with my spine. That's position number one. Position number two, if that's pretty easy for you, what you'll see in the video is I have you take and try and touch the elbow of the arm that's in the air to the knee of the arm that's in the air. So that adds some difficulty, right? We're starting to add some of that dynamic balance into it as well, right? We're building our core, but this is another balance move, right? So we're adding some of that dynamic movement into it. And then if that's too easy for you, I have some additional challenges for you with rotating the upper body, kind of the same as you saw in the video this weekend, changing the rotation of the upper body. And the real challenging one is doing this move with the same arm and the same leg. That's the most challenging one. I can do about 5 to 6 of those typically, and then I begin to lose some balance. So we've got a base level, and then we can work your way all the way up. So I have videos for both of you on those. Now, I don't have a video for you on the glute bridge. And in fact, you might be looking at that and saying, wow, CJ, you got a whole lot younger and a whole lot thinner, and your hair changed and everything like that when you look at those two pictures on the bottom. She actually, that's one of, I'm a certified personal trainer, and those are one of the slides that we are allowed to use. So this is what a glute bridge is. So I would lay flat on the ground with my heels, moving them towards my buttocks, and then I simply would lift my behind up in the air. I'm keeping my shoulders down on the ground, and I'm lifting my behind up in the air. If you notice, her knees are slightly, in this instance, they are slightly behind her ankles, and that's fine. Okay, that's not a problem. They don't have to be straight up and down. In fact, for us, sometimes that can be very difficult to do because we may have some arthritis issues inside of our knees. So this is a glute bridge, and all she's simply doing is lifting up, holding it, and then coming down. And when you lift up, what you want to feel is you want to feel your glutes, your behind engaging. So it's a feeling like you're tensing your cheeks and kind of pulling your cheeks together. So that's the basic glute bridge. Now, if you are doing glute bridges or this one is too easy for you, the one-legged glute bridge, which she's demonstrating over on the other side. So you'll notice that leg, the knees stay in alignment with each other. It doesn't have to be at 90 degrees. She simply lifted the leg in alignment with each other, and you would lift that first, put those legs in alignment with each other, and then lift yourself off the ground, hold it, and then return to the ground. So those would be the glute bridge. And if you have some questions on that, my intent was to try and shoot a video sometime yet today, but hopefully this explanation will get you through. All right, so that's the core strength portion. Before I actually get into the balance core portion, I want to go back and I'm going to stop this again for just 1 second. So give me a second here. Okay. Does anybody have, if you have a question, if right now that you think needs to be answered now, let me know, or give me a thumbs up with the reactions or a thumbs up with your thumb. Keep going. If not, unmute yourself, ask the question. Okay.
So,
not a question, but when you're doing the bridge, generally, I've been instructed in the past to like hold it for 5 seconds and then go back down.
Great question. It's going to depend upon your fitness level, and I'm going to get that into the training section. Okay. But the basic one would be up, like a 1 second hold, and then down, up and then down. As you're more fit, it would be hold it longer. Great question, Diane. Marlene, you had a question as well?
I do. So I had a knee replacement. It's been about last August. Mm-hmm. And I'm still finding it really hard to kneel or to be on my knees.
Okay.
And I also have a wrist issue, but.
Okay. So is it just pain and pressure from the floor? Is that what you're experiencing?
So I've tried doing it on a carpet. It just is really uncomfortable to be on my knees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you tried, all right, so let's talk about the plank first, and you and I can also take this discussion offline if we need to, but I'm going to guess that some of you may also have some challenges with being on our knees, right? So in the plank, when you're in that plank position that I was in on my knees, if you just simply put a towel, like if you've got a yoga mat is great, then put a towel on top of the yoga mat, put your knees in that position. Generally, the plank is not one that hurts most people because you're not directly on your knees. That's not necessarily a pressure point. You know, you're forward of that. Most people have more difficulty when the hip is directly over the knee. Does that make sense?
Yes, I was really thinking more about the bird dog.
About the bird dog. So what I would like you to try is this. I would like you to see if having that extra padding under your knee helps you.
Okay, I'll try.
If it's an issue, I want you to let me know, or if anyone else has an issue, and let me see if there are some alternatives that I can come up with on that.
Okay, I'll try. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
And on the plank, I mean, I could be on my elbows because I have the wrist issue, and then be on my toes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because
Okay.
that would be the next motion. Would not being on your knees is the easiest, and then being on your toes with your feet about hip width apart. That's the next most difficult. And I do show you that in the video.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Didn't know you were getting yourself into planks, did you? Okay. All right. It looks like we're all pretty good here. Awesome. I'm going to go back and show you the rest of the plan. All right. Okay. So that's our core strength. So I figured I couldn't go in that way. Hang on 1 second. I figured I had to go right back to the screen presentation. So Let me move down here. So we got our test, and now we've got our test, we've got our core strength, and now we have a program. So I have divided this out into 3 different programs. I've divided it out into a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced program. And I will put up PDFs for each and every one of you. So let me take you through the way this program is laid out. First of all, what I want you to see is look at the left-hand side of the screen where you see bird dog, plank, bridge, and you notice that that's underlined, okay? Each one of those is a link to the video and a link to a video. In fact, even the bridge is a link to a video. It's not me, it's through my trainers organization, but it does show you how to do a basic bridge. You can click on that link. It'll be an active live link and you could bring it up. With the balance videos, I linked to the video that I did on Saturday, that I posted on Saturday, and each of the programs, the beginner, the intermediate, or the advanced, are linked to that exact section in the program. So if you're doing the intermediate program, you shouldn't see the beginner information. I can do it's called a timestamp on a YouTube video, so I can have it start in an exact place. So if you, as you're first doing these, if you have them perhaps like on a computer screen or maybe just up on your phone, and you'll be able to hit that button, and then you're going to be taken to that portion in the video so you can actually see the motion and see the movement that you're trying to do. You're probably going to only need that the first few times just to really jog your memory, but it's there for you. So what you'll do to start out with is you're going to do a warm-up first, because we never want to do a balance routine without warming up our bodies. And the warm-up is going to be different for each group depending upon where you are. I just pulled up the beginner program so that you could see this program. And for that, it's a march in place for just like 5 minutes, right? Just march in place. What you're trying to think is huffing and puffing. Get your body moving, get your body warm. Your muscles are going to perform better when they're warm. If you are doing the straight beginner program, you know this is an issue for you, use a prop for all of the balance exercises. In fact, here's what I will share. If you're uncertain, have a prop close by. Just have a chair where you could actually just grab out and touch the chair if you need to. Good posture, I talked a lot about that in the video. Good posture, we want to, this is, you know, where mom always told you, sit up straight, right? How is those things? Sit up straight, bring your shoulders back, right? I mean, look tall, all of those things. Engage your core, which again is pulling your stomach into your spine. All of those things are important. Start slowly, find out where you're at, and then barefoot is also something that I recommend. Try it both with and with shoes, both with and without shoes. So the first thing you'll do in this workout is, excuse me, you're going to start with all your core exercises. And every workout is designed the same. The number of sets and reps, as well as the progressions, are what will make them different. So in the beginner workout, we're doing basically 2 sets. We're trying to do, many times we're doing holds on these, and we're trying to hold for 15 seconds. Okay, so you see 2 sets, and then you see the X. That means what we're trying to do, either how many repetitions, how many times we do it, or how long we hold it for. You do that, you rest for 60 seconds, and then you move into the plank. You do that, you rest for 60 seconds, and then you move into the bridge. Before you do the balance exercises, you go back up to the top and do your additional sets of core exercises. So you do your core exercises first, you do your balance exercises second, okay? If you're finding these are too easy for you, or you know you've done them for a couple weeks, on the right-hand side, I've listed what the progressions were. So as an example, if you're a beginner in the bird dog, you're gonna do 2 sets where you lift your leg up, and I'm going to go back here. You lift your leg up in this position up here on the top. That is all you do in that beginner position and you try and hold it right there. That's it. Hold for 15 seconds on each side. If that's too easy for you, your next progression is to try to touch the knee to the elbow. See if you can do 2 sets of that 4 to 6 times. If that gets too easy, we either increase the amount of sets or we increase the amount of repetitions. Okay, that's up to you. You can play around with that. You can try 3 sets holding for 15 seconds, or you could do 2 sets trying to hold for 30 seconds. These are just suggestions to help you do that. So here's your baseline starting point, and then a way for you to progress if it's too easy for you. Because here's the thing, as you do this, it's going to get easier, and in order to change your body, you have to challenge your body. So I don't want you to stay where it's easier. So if you start doing some of these things and you have some questions, hey, this is too easy for me, just let me know. I'm happy to walk you through and say, hey, here's how you can challenge yourself. So in this workout, you're going to do this core workout first. Okay, then you're going to move into the balance workout, and you're going to, again, you can see there are 2 sets here, either with a hold or a number of repetitions, right? So I would go through, I would do the standing on 1 foot. I'm going to do that 1 time for a 15-second hold. I'm going to rest for 60 seconds. Then I'm going to do the standing side leg lifts. And I didn't put it in here. Sorry, I missed that. I will correct it before I put that to you. But standing on 1 foot, we're alternating feet, right? I want you to do 2 sets on each foot. Standing side leg lifts, I want you to do 2 sets on each foot. Standing hamstrings, 2 sets on each foot. Same thing in the tandem, same thing in the deadlift. So for each of these, we're alternating our feet. And I'll make sure and put that back in the instructions. I missed that. But so you'll start out by 2 sets for a 15-second hold, you'll do a rest, and then you'll move through each of these exercises. Again, over on that left-hand side, I have a progression for you. In the case of the beginner routine, you're either trying to eliminate the prop and hold for the same amount of time, or you're using the prop and trying to increase it for 30 seconds. And again, by the prop, I mean a chair, a walking stick, whatever you have to help you to maintain your balance. The intermediate and the advanced program are set up the exact same way. The only thing that's different inside of those programs, it's exactly what I showed you in the video, would be the number of sets in either the amount of repetitions or the length that you would be holding it. And then I've got the same type of progressions set up for you. So that in essence is the plan. Let me stop. There's one more slide I want to share with you, but I want to stop this share. Did that make sense? Do you have questions on how any of that's set up? If you do, please unmute yourself and let's get those questions answered. Okay, I see Joan is good. Marlene.
I do realize that more than likely I'll be using the beginner plan for the core strength and a different plan for the balance.
Yep, and that's fine. You're going to have access to all 3 so that you'll be able to see where those are. Great point. You can use, if you're not good at core and you know you're not good at core, use the beginning core plan and the intermediate balance plan. Or if you're really good at core and you're not so good at balance, use an intermediate core plan and a beginning balance plan. So feel free to mix and match these. Okay. Other questions on the plan? Okay. Let me just show you one more thing and then we'll open it up to some final questions. I'm going to go back here and share my screen one more time. Okay, let's see. Okay. All right. So a couple of other things. If you have really good balance, and I know that some of you are working out and you're doing workouts and maybe you're still lifting some weights. I know some of you do, some of you don't. There are other things that you can do. And One of the things that you could use is you could use a Bosu ball. And the Bosu ball is, and actually, you know what? I was going to say, I changed that slide. I was looking at it going, oh my goodness. That was a different slide. So erase that. This is the slide that I meant to show you. Is there are other methods to incorporate balance into things that you already do. So as an example, if you're somebody who's working out and you're working out on your core, the one on the upper right where the lady is on her elbows, doing the plank on her elbows, that's a stability ball. Okay, you can start to use your stability ball during the course of your workout. So here she's specifically working on a plank. But as an example, if you're doing an upper body workout, you could sit on a stability ball and you could do a press from a stability ball. If you're doing presses, you could stand on one leg and do a press up on one leg. You could stand in a tandem and do a press in a tandem. So one of the other ways to incorporate this is look at some of the routines that you may already be doing and see if you can add those in. Stability balls are a great way to do that. The bottom right is a Bosu ball, which is fantastic for balance if you happen to have one. I know you might have access to one at your gym, but if you happen to have one at home, I love this. As you know, I love to ski, and balance is a real premium when it comes to skiing. I happen to have one at home. You'll notice here, she can do a lot of exercises, even just a common stretch. When you have your foot up on something that's unstable, that can be very challenging. Here she's doing core exercises. The picture on the left, she's doing a V-set on top of a Bosu ball. So that's another thing that can challenge you. Down in the middle, the little black discs, you may or may not have seen them. They're about that big. They're pretty inexpensive on Amazon. You can, standing on that little black disc, because what it is it's wobbly. So what it'll do is it makes all those little muscles in your body start to fire to help you to keep balance. So again, you could be working out, you could be doing something different. And you could stand on one of those discs and that could be very challenging for you. Or you can add it to a regular balance routine. If your balance is already really good, grab one of those little discs. You can probably still get one on Amazon, and they're pretty inexpensive, and it's a great way to challenge you. I'd recommend trying some yoga. Right? Yoga is fantastic for the balance. A couple weeks ago, I posted a link to the Peloton digital app. Inside Peloton, they have beginner yoga workouts. It's free for the next 90 days. Give some yoga a try. One of my favorite instructors is Ashante, and you will clearly see it marked beginner, and really kind of all you have to do is have a mat. And sometimes they recommend some props, but you can usually use a blanket and a substitute for occasionally, again, they recommend some yoga blocks, but you can kind of get creative if you don't have those at home. And the instructors are usually pretty good at recommending different substitutions that you can use if you don't happen to have those props at home. But give yoga a try. It's a great way to improve your balance. Another one on that upper left-hand corner, Tai Chi, and you see that a lot. So, right, Tai Chi, and I did Tai Chi for about 6 months. I never got very good at it, but it was really fun because it also challenges your brain to move in a variety of different ways. So sometimes you are static, just like you would be in yoga, as well as you have the dynamic. Dancing. I know when I was young, I absolutely loved to dance. I don't dance as much anymore, but it definitely challenges your coordination and your balance. It challenges you to move. Throw on some music and just move around the house. Peloton also has some dancing workouts that they've added, some cardio dancing workouts. So those can be pretty fun. The bottom one is a wobble board. That specifically is for that's a real test for balance. So you're standing on that. You can see that you're on a ball, and there's a lot of movement, and there's a variety of different wobble boards. That's probably the hardest kind. You would see some others that are bigger and square on bigger rockers. There are a lot of different things that you could do with wobble boards. So if you've either got access to that, that's another way to challenge yourself. So just look for other things that you can do, that you can work into your day already to give you more balance. If you're working out, do it on one leg, right? You know, start doing those types of things. I posted a picture last night. I don't know if you saw it, but I was doing a boot camp workout yesterday on Peloton with Andy Spear, and sure enough, we're working on balance. So one of the things that we're doing what's called a walkout. So we're walking out from a standing position into a plank position, and he wanted us to walk out, balance on one foot, and then walk out on one foot, and then come back in on one foot. So here we are doing a workout that was focused on the entire body, but we're incorporating balance into already what we're doing. So look for some ways and some opportunities to do that. Okay, cool. So that is what I have for you. Let's do this first. If you have any specific questions, go ahead and unmute yourself first. Okay. Yep,
Well,
Joan.
what would be the easiest of those? The balls and the little black thing, or the big ball?
Okay, great question. There are a couple of different options. Generally, the easiest one is the little black thing. Okay, the little black, because they're about like that thick, and they're about that round. And so they're basically big enough for 1 foot. Usually you need 2, but you could practice with balancing just on one, right? Those are usually the easier one to start with.
Does it have a name?
I will put a link. It depends. There's not any, it's not like the Bosu ball. They're called a variety of different things. I'll put a link.
Okay.
Those are good ones. The other one that's easy, I did want to mention this about the stability balls. Stability balls are pretty inexpensive. You could get a stability ball for less than $20. Stability balls typically come in 3 sizes, and they are based on your height. Okay, so like a small, medium, and a large. I will post a link, but you should look at the chart to help you with appropriate sizing. And they usually the stability ball comes with like a little plastic hose and a pump, so you can just, it's a foot pump, so you can just pump the stability ball up, and you can keep it pumped up because it actually does lose air. There are 2 types of stability balls. There's just the plain stability ball that's filled with air. There are also stability balls that have some weight inside the balls. They're typically a little bit more expensive, but it's a more stable version of the stability ball. So if your balance is in question, I kind of recommend getting that first version first, the one with the little bit more stability on the inside. And here's what I would tell you, the difference between those two: the stability ball is a bit more universal because you can start to use that for some strength training. You know, you said you were lifting weights down in the basement. A great way to improve your core is just sit on the ball with your feet on the ground and do your movements. If you have a stability ball and you really want to work on your core, sit on the ball and try and keep your feet off the ground. I know that sounds easy, but I got to tell you, it's pretty hard. So if it was looking at the 2 of those things and you were going to make one purchase, I would think the stability ball has more universal applications.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Not looking like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everybody off mute. Okay, everybody's off mute now. I tell you, is everyone all good?
Yep.
Okay, all right. I will post some of those. You'll see all these resources in, excuse me, you'll see all these resources in the community. It's probably going to take me just a little bit I want to make that revision to those slides, and I'll get those posted shortly. I will get the replay. That probably won't get posted till tonight. It takes, when you're uploading, it takes a long time to upload a video that's an hour. So it probably won't get posted till tonight, but that link that you already had is where the replay will be. So you don't need a new link. You just go back into that same one. You'll see last week's, and then you'll see this week's. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any questions before we go? All right. Okay. Well, happy balance.